appreciate you taking the time. Welcome to the New Playbook podcast. I call this the New Playbook, as I think that throughout technology, there's a lot of changes coming into how we operate businesses, right? So, part of the intention of this podcast series is just to bring, business owners and operators to just talk about, how things are changing, in their space. So, Nadja, we really appreciate you and to share, with the audience a little bit of your story, which is fascinating. And, also talk about technology and how technology is, affecting, the way that you do business and the way that you see other businesses do business. So I'll give you a few minutes so you can maybe tell us a little bit about a quick background, and then we'll dive deep into, some of, your journey. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alexander. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate the time, and it's an honor to be here. So thank you so much. So a little bit about me is, I know you want to go into my background. So honestly, every time that I talk about my background, it's something that actually makes me kind of like giggle, because I already know where it takes people. I usually tell people that I am from 5 different continents, and you can see their faces and their eyeballs just kind of like, what? And it just never fails. So to break it down a little bit, I am, on my dad's side, I am indigenous Colombian. So that includes Spanish and West African. So that's one lineage. And then on my mom's side, I am French, and I am French and Vietnamese. And so about 90% of the time, people are asking me like, wait, what? Where is each part coming from where? And so then I get to explain a little bit more that it comes from my Vietnamese, comes from my grandmother on my mother's side. And then the Colombian comes from my grandmother on my father's side. And that I grew up in Paris, in France, and I did my education in parts of my education in France, and then some of it in United States. And now I'm currently abroad in Mexico for some time. And so that's basically it. I think that, in short, that people think that I'm just from around the world, and that's something that I actually do honor and love about myself. I mean, I generally see things from a different lens than other people. I grew up moving from different cultures, different foods, different people. And I think that I also see money, time, and family and food completely different than most people do. And I think that that's kind of like how I show up, how it shows up in my work today. So it's less about where I'm from and more of how many places really get to claim me. I think that's more where that comes from. So that's a little bit about me.
Amazing. Well, listen, I don't get to relate to so many people all the time in that sense. And listen, here in America, everybody has a lineage from many places, right? But I agree. When I've done my 26andMe, DNA test, and pretty much the whole world lights up a little bit, right? In a way. So I don't get to relate to people that definitely have a wide variety of backgrounds, right? Connected. So I too share a little bit of that. I've only lived here in the United States and, in Puerto Rico. So, I'm definitely more in the American culture. So, obviously you have a bit of that, other perspectives, right, that you can definitely share. And I'm sure that comes up in your work. You call yourself a citizen of the world with 7 continents, with 7 continents kind of being the whole of you. So that makes it quite interesting. Tell me a little bit about the story about your grandma, because I think that's a pivotal point where in our previous conversation you discussed that, and that kind of build up a little bit of your background, right? Your hospitality sense, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my grandmother on my mom's side is Vietnamese, and she's been an entrepreneur Cassie her whole life, from what I remember. It started actually before I can even know it started. So my grandmother on my Vietnamese side, she worked in the restaurant industry. She had a hotel. Well, she had started with a bar. She had a bar somewhere in Paris, I forget where. And then shortly later on, she had a hotel where she did venues, and as well where we did events for weddings, for birthdays, anniversary, and things like that. And so for a long time, I actually didn't know that I was watching her being an entrepreneur. And on my mom's side, I did have quite a few entrepreneurs. My aunt was also an entrepreneur. My mom was also an entrepreneur. My dad was also an entrepreneur. So yeah, and I actually lost my mom at a really young age. So I didn't get to see or to grow up with that kind of entrepreneurship from her side. And then my dad, I wasn't around long enough to really be around him, but he as well was an entrepreneur for a while. And so yeah, basically I really wanted to, I didn't realize that I had this in me. I just knew at a really young age, at 16. I remember getting ready to go to my training. I was on a training in France of like 15 days at school and 15 days at actually on the job. And I remember getting up at like 6 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm 16. Is this going to be the rest of my life? Like getting up at this time of the day to like go to work. Like, yeah, I love my job, but like, I don't think like I don't think I want to do this for the rest of my life. I change mine, like I'm 16 for starters, and I change ideas all the time. Like, this is not going to work for me. And so, yeah, it kind of made things different when I realized that I needed to be an entrepreneur. And 2020 kind of really pushed me to lean more into being an entrepreneur when the pandemic hit and I got laid off. I was the last person in, the first person out, and budget were cuts. And so unfortunately for a lot of us, and for the rest of the world, that I just kind of was like remembering being like completely in disassociation. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, how am I going to pay bills? But then, it just kind of hit you all at once and you're like, what's happening? But at the
Right.
same time, you know that there's programs that are going to help you and things like that. So you're kind of like, okay, I'm not the only one in this particular case. So it kind of made me feel a little bit better. But it was a difficult time, and that had brought me back to 2 points in my life. The first one was back when I was 16. Like, oh, do you remember that time when you were 16 and like you were thinking about doing your own business? And that brought me back to that. And then it also brought me back to when I had graduated from my health functional coach. I'm a health coach as well. And I graduated, I believe it was in 2018 or 2019 that I graduated. And I remember saying like, yeah, I'm going to go and be a coach and I'm just going to start helping people and go out there and so on and so forth. And that bubble got shattered really quickly because when you go online on social media, everyone's a coach for some kind of thing, right? And I was just kind of like, oh my God, how am I going to compete with a million of other coaches in different niches? But like, I was terrified. And so I think that which was kind of nice that I paused because I never wanted to be an influencer. That was never something that I lined up with at all. So I think that brought me into a journey of like self-discovering and really deep development, sacred medicine, really honoring back to, meditation and peace and calmness, and really bringing myself back to like a whole new person, eating differently, really honoring myself for me and not for what I needed to show up or how I needed to show up for the world. So that was something that was interesting for me, or like something that I really wanted to share. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, of course. No, great. I mean, listen, everybody kind of passes through their process, and I think that COVID was one that nobody was ready for. Obviously, it took a lot of people swept a lot of people out of their feet, right? I mean, meaning, there was that crossroad of what do I do now, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny that you say, the coaching aspect. I think that, we're in that world now where there's a lot of jobs that require you to show up in camera and have that, kind of influencer mindset with it, which is interesting. And it's not for everyone, right? But yeah, it's a quite fearful, right? I can attest to that myself. But all of a sudden, life kind of pivots and takes you into where you need to land, right? And you told me you kind of had all these transitions. You told me a little bit about you had a bunch of office jobs, so that wasn't for you. But then something happened along the way. You started learning a lot about, kind of building, becoming your own IT person. Tell me a little bit of how you found your groove, right? How do you found solid ground to kind of move on into the new phase of Nadja?
God. Okay. So actually, so going back to France, or going back when I was a little girl, growing up with my grandmother being into the hospitality industry. When I came back to the United States at the age of 18, my English wasn't really it wasn't really good. And I didn't really have experience in working in the United States. And so my first things were like to work in the hospitality. That's something that I knew. That was something that was easy to get hired into. And so that's what I leaned into. And I started in the restaurants industry, and I got quickly, I started to work in bartending. And then I started to work in nightclubs. And that was like a pivot of like, I know this is not the place for me, but the money was so good that I just couldn't get out of that cycle. And so I remember trying to leave working the night shifts and getting an office job. And I remember getting paid, I don't know, like maybe at the time it was like $1,500 like for 2 weeks. And I'm like, I make this in like 3 days of work as a bartender. Why the hell would I want to work in an office just so I can
Right.
have my 9 to 5? Like, what is this? And see my friends on the weekends and have the nights off so we could go out to dinner. I was like, this is not the like, yeah, this is cool, but it's not what I wanted. So I kept getting into these jobs. Like I did real estate, I did a bunch of jobs. I worked for, oh my God, so many office jobs that I lost track of. And really what happened is that I worked in a travel agency, which I also speak French. I speak French, English, and Spanish. And so what happened was that at one point, one of my aunt from France came over. She's really well known in France for her business. And she had came to United States because she was doing this interview and like some business things that she was doing at the time. And she had put me in touch with this travel agency, which was like a tour operator that is in the United States, but that helps French people to come to travel to America. And she had put me in touch with this company, and I went in for an interview, and sure enough, I had gotten the job. So I worked there for 2 years, and I really loved the job. I love the travel industry. That's something that still holds a little space in my heart. And so we were a small family-owned company, so a small team, and we would have the IT people that would come in whenever one of us would having an IT issue. And I remember talking to them and being like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Like just kind of like, because I'm so curious of what they're doing. I'm like, "This is so cool." And I just never really thought of IT. That was just never something that like came to my mind at all. My family wanted me to like work in the health. They wanted me to be a doctor and work in like those big things. I was like, that's not happening. And so I remember when the IT guy would come in, he'd be like, "Hey, like," I'm like, "What are you doing? And what is this and this and this?" And so my curiosity just got the best of me. And I just remember being so curious, and I was testing, just deleting softwares off my computer and building the operating system. I just remember doing like these kinds of stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, and so I realized that this was something that was really interesting. And so in 2014, I actually left Florida and I moved to New Jersey with my father. And at that time, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to school. And I decided to go to IT school. So I went to school in New Jersey, and it was a 1 year prep school. And from there, I just learned everything I learned. And I was so interested with the vast world of IT. And I was like, where do I want to go? I was like, I don't know. So I started with like low level IT jobs, like desk support and things like that. And it quickly escalated to a lot of bigger tasks. So that was really interesting. I appreciated the 11, 12, the 12 years, 14 years I've been in. And so I'm just really appreciative for all of this. And now I'm just kind of realizing that I can actually merge something that I really love, because while I was doing the IT field, I was looking at dashboards. I was looking at, responding to supervisors. I'm looking at KPIs. I'm looking at all these different systems. And so I'm so zoned in that I would forget that in the morning I would be into my meditations, right? Because that was also part of who I was. And so I felt like I was splitting myself into halves. Like before I would go to work, I'm all Zen and all namaste. And then I'm going to work and looking at dashboard and like, this is level 3. Where do I got to send this? And who do I got to talk? And what call I got to go on? And you're pulling hair out, right? And
Yeah.
then I get off from work and I'm like back to namaste. So I'm like, what's happening? So yeah, that's kind of like how things started for me. And the experience that I had from going from not having a job and getting fired from offices because I was like, I don't like this, or I'm not getting paid enough, to starting to find my voice in IT. And I wanted to be a pen tester. I wanted to be a penetration tester actually at one point. So those are like the people that kind of like hack into businesses, softwares. Like the owner will send you a message like, "Hey, I'm contacting you because I want you to hack into my system to make sure my employees are doing their jobs correctly and the infrastructure is
Right.
built correctly." That's what I wanted to do when I started, like a few years after I started into IT. I was like, this is interesting. But then I'm like, I don't want to be a hacker. I want to be the
Hmm.
good guys. And I'm like, well, I could be a white hat hacker. You get into like this whole, and I'm like, so now the way I look at it for Woodbridge Consulting, the way I see my business is that I do the same thing, but I'm an investigator and I'm an auditor. I edit everything for them, right? All their backends and all their stacks, softwares. And from there, I just really help investigate all of this and make sure that everything is correct. There's not leaking any money, no double payments on softwares, that they're compliant, that they're staying legal on all their paperwork, you know. So that's what I do now.
Amazing. When did you start your consultancy, Woodbridge?
Actually, I started it in January, but I wasn't fully, because I was still going through. Well, I had two losses this year earlier in January, and 3 weeks ago I just lost two of my fellow felines. So I've been going through a lot of that. And then I had a wedding. So I didn't really like start fully until beginning of May is when I really implemented everything, from the website to like launching, my LinkedIn account, to being active and to be like, okay, I'm putting full throttle, blinders on, we're going in. So it's been a beautiful ride so far. And it's interesting because I have not been scared at all versus all the other businesses that I've started, and I've quit within, 2 months of it. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. And this one has been solid ground. I feel really good. I feel connected. I feel that I'm speaking to people that need this service, because I've gotten a lot of messages on LinkedIn, on DMs, that are saying like, "Wow, your niche is really specific. It's really great. We don't see a lot of that." So I feel like I'm I opened a can of worms. So like, this is something where things can actually blossom to be something. And no one, when I look on LinkedIn, no one's doing this. So it's like I can't really resonate. I can't copy anybody's
I love it.
content creation. I can't do anything else, because when you start, they're always like, oh, look at somebody that's at your level, or look at somebody that's doing what you want to do, and kind of mimic a little bit where you're at. And I'm just like, okay, but I can't do this because no one is doing what I'm doing. So I'm kind of testing and put a little bit of, different tests out there to see what really resonates with people, and go out there, put
Amazing.
the seeds out.
Great, great. That's amazing. So, okay, so you build Woodbridge, and let's talk about how do you operate a little bit. Let's say, there's a new client comes in. What do you do the first week, more or less? Give us a quick overall picture of how that onboarding or how that interaction is, right?
Yeah. So of course, so we start first with a 30-minute intro booking call intro, where we just kind of get to know each other, make sure that we're a right fit for each other. If that's the case and I feel that we are a match, then we can move on to the 1 hour call, which we get more information in depth about structure of their business and how they are, what softwares they're using, are they compliant, are they lacking paperwork, are they needed help with in any financial teams that I don't support. And so once onboarding is done, my first week is basically I go into a deep dive into their businesses, into their softwares, basically. So their subscriptions, their vendor contracts, I just start investigating right away, right off from the bat, right? And I'm looking for the leak that's usually slow, the one that's probably been sitting there for a while, that's quietly costing the owner money without them even noticing that it's they're losing the money. And so most practices, they are running tools that gets added over time, and they probably started the software, they probably started a membership or subscription with this one software, but that software at the time was lacking a feature that the other software didn't have, so they got another software. So these are things that I look over, and over the years, I solved problems that was put in front of them that they don't even know that was put in front of them, basically. And so a MedSpa that, for example, has got a booking platform that's bottled into 3 payment processors that nobody is remembering they even signed up for example.
Yeah.
Or a wellness center that has got 2 client intake systems running at once because someone switched to providers years ago and they got nobody that is shutting, the old system down because they forgot about it. Or what else do we have? We have something along that. Yeah, those are the softwares, those are the platforms that I start at, that I look through, that I go through, things that are running into the background, every auto renewal, every platform contract, processing payments, APR contracts, vendor contracts. And so, yeah, the things that are slowly draining their accounts every month and that they forget to check on. And so basically it's just investigating and auditing that are 2 words that actually describe what I do, to sum up what I do, basically. And so, yeah, and then I look into compliance as well, legality, those come into very, very strongly as well. I know a lot of businesses like to operate with them or without them being expired or forgetting to do that. And for me, it's important because if you're hiring us to do the work for you and you want me to protect your finances, and then later on in 6 months from now, you are going to get a hefty fine from one of the controllers because you're missing a compliance. Unfortunately, I can't prevent you from losing money if you're not compliant. So these are hefty fines. So these are questions that I ask during our processing, our onboarding calls, to just kind of go over all the things that are necessary. And this is not to point the finger at anyone, at the founder or at the staff. This is just, most of the founders are so busy running their clinics and taking care of their clients and building their team and keeping their lights on, that they're not focusing on auditing their SaaS stack or reading the fine print on their vendor renewal contract. Like that's just not something they're even they're not even thinking about that, right? It's not even something that makes sense. And so, that's exactly the gap that I step into. I connect where the founder is forgetting or is not doing, and fixing that gap and making sure that I speak IT, they speak business. Okay, let's talk together. Let's meet in the middle. Let me take care of that for you. And so that's basically what I do.
Awesome. So you're focusing mostly on med spas and wellness centers and things like that. Okay, great. And you told me a very interesting pain point, because I deal with med spas a lot, and sometimes the operation part gets overseen, as they're very involved with their practice in a way. What's in your perspective, what is the number one, let's say, discovery, right? That you say, wait a minute, or how do you really assess, or was that number one pain point that most med spas or wellness centers are experiencing, right? When, in your perspective, as you interact with them.
So for sure, what I've seen in the past and what I've heard from other founders is that for sure, hands down, it's their stack redundancy. It's their
Hmm.
software for sure. A practice that could be paying for two to three different platforms that are basically doing the exact same thing, but because the lack of the knowledge on the one specific software, so they'll buy another one or they'll subscribe to another one because they're like, oh, that one does this, right? Or that one's HIPAA compliant, or that one says this. And so they'll subscribe to another one. And unfortunately, it's just, again, they don't have time to go and learn that entire software from A to Z to learn what it does. Because if they did, they would not be subscribing to three different platforms in
Right.
order to do the same thing, right? So now there's three subscriptions that are going around. Who knows? Maybe there's two different cards on it. Let's say the founder put his card, but then he forgot, and then his assistant put another card. So now there's double payments. So like this happens quite often.
Right.
And then, like, for example, like scheduling tools or client communication, automated follow-ups. Some of the softwares are doing, others aren't. I have a list of all the softwares that I think I have like over 30 something lists, 30 tools that can tell me exactly like which softwares is doing full or if it's individual software one-on-one. And then, yeah, and then the other thing too, again, it's just the big, and then the second biggest one that I've seen is the leak and the vendor contract. That is huge. Founders don't think of that it's a vendor contract for, it could be anything for, I can't think of anything right now, but like it could be for literally anything. When most people sign something, they sign the contract once and then they just never look at it. And then they don't track when it renews. They don't track down of like if the prices has increased over the years, because that happens very frequently. And again, it's in the fine prints or it's in places that just people don't want to read a contract of 30 pages or more, right? Like no one has time unless you have a legal counsel, of course, and then you give it to them and then they do that. But most founders are avoiding or not starting with the legal counsel right away.
Right.
And then the third one is that catches the owners off guard for sure. It's compliance and legal exposure. That is very, very important, and that it's sitting quietly inside the business structure. And that, again, I'm no legal counsel and I'll never pretend to be one, but I do ask these questions every single time that I am in a call with a client. Hey, are you compliant? Do you know what you need in your state? Where are you standing? How have you gotten your compliance? Do you know if you need any renewal? Because again, if you hire me to protect your revenue, I can't be doing the thing that you are hiring me to do if you're not doing your thing on your own end as well.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, Woodbridge is here to 100% support the founder, to 100% support the med spa completely, and to make sure that your whole structure. So you have your med spa office or clinic or retreat or spa, or however you call it, and it's like you walk out of the spa every night, you lock it with your alarm code, right? You walk out the door, you lock everything in, but then you leave the windows open. It's like, come on. It's like, I can't help you if you leave the windows open. Like, this is expected that someone is going to come in and steal something. So I need to make sure that this doesn't happen. And so that's what we do at Woodbridge Consulting.
Interesting. Well, definitely, some of the pain points that you're mentioning come with. I mean, I say they come with the territory. I mean, med spas have been probably one of the fastest growing businesses or niches, right? There's a room, or not a rumor, but it's said that there's more med spas than McDonald's in the United States at this point, right? And I'm here in Miami, just like you, and everywhere you look, there's some sort of med spa or wellness center, and there's that definitely friction, right? That it's a it seems like a lot of people go into the business because that's their trait. They know how to do it, but they miss out on that business acumen, right? To be able to have their business up to date. Do you understand that? What would be the best process? I mean, I know that you can help people in that sense. Do you usually come in to the picture before they build the med spa, or this is something that usually they call you once they're deep in and they're trying to get things in order?
Yeah, I usually get the call in when I wish they called before or while they're building the structure so I can really help them from the beginning. But most of the time, what happens is that we get calls and we're like, wow, we grew so fast and our revenue is skyrocketing, but we're not seeing it's not matching our bank accounts. And so we don't really know what to do. And we need somebody to help us not just clean our bookkeeping records, but also like help us because we would like to expand. We want to hire more staff, or we want to buy more equipment, or we want to add more service lines, more services in our spas. And so maybe expand to different location as well, or they need it for their CPA, right? Because walking into your CPA's office with all your receipts in your hand and say, here is going to do what? Cost your CPA a whole headache. And in addition, you're going to be paying your CPA is going to be charging you a lot more, right? And so avoiding all those things and really not getting a general bookkeeper, please, please, please do not get a general bookkeeper because that will make you pay double the price. You might want to go for a general bookkeeper or for a cheap bookkeeper because you're like, I just need to get things categorized. Wrong, because you will be paying twice for that. So please don't, because you'll need to hire another bookkeeper or another person to fix the mistake of the first bookkeeper. So please avoid that at all costs. But yeah, it's very important to know where you're standing, where you're standing, and I guess really where you want to go. And so, like for me, for example, in the business that I have with my father, we've had it for the past 4.5 years. And I remember being like, okay, great, we have a CPA. Yeah, we're all taken care of. And I was kind of a little bit disappointed that with the CPA that we've had, not once that she asked us if we wanted to grow, not once that she asked us if we were seeing this, growing to multiple people. And we have a transportation business or a trucking business, and right now we have 2 trucks, but like maybe we wanted to get to 10 trucks. And why aren't we being asked by our CPA, like, hey, where do you plan on going? Where do you plan on growing? Having these kinds of questions. And so these are questions that I ask because as a founder for another business, I've noticed that, and this is not the first CPA we've had for that company specifically. And the 3 CPAs we've had before never once asked us any of these questions. And for me, I feel like if a business owner, a founder comes to me and says, hey, I have a med spa, my first question is, where are you trying to go? Right? Again, I'm not a legal counsel. I'm not a fractional CFO. I'm not a CEO. I'm none of this stuff. I'm not a CPA. But I guess maybe it's my digital marketing mind getting into gear because I've also worked in digital marketing. And so it just really triggers me to ask these questions like, where do you see this going? How do you see this expansion going? Asking this question, planting the seeds before these founders even think about this. You just want to keep it at one spot, one location only? And if so, who is the financial team that you have by your side? Do you have a bookkeeper? Do you have a CPA? Do you have a tax prep? Because that's another thing that Woodbridge Consulting is very, very interested in, is making sure that you have a whole financial team by your side, that it's not just one person having just a CPA and thinking you're covered. Every one of these roles have their whole entire lane that they need to stay in. And everyone has their own structure. And so, yeah.
So let's talk about AI a little bit. I think you told me in the pre-podcast call that you use AI to find your niche before building it. Most people use it as, a tool to do tasks. Walk me through, let's say, using it to make a strategic decision.
So I use AI for a lot of things on my business. So yeah, I did use AI to kind of niche down. I knew I wanted to get involved in IT, and I knew I wanted something to do with med spas or even health and wellness. I just didn't really know what it was at the time. And when I asked AI the why and the who I needed to niche down for, it brought all these industries that I've worked in. So it was, for example, remember, this was a while ago, but like it was like
it was probably hallucinating, but
yeah, I probably forgot like everything. But it was things like, it basically brought the niche because I was like, okay, who are the underserved industries that are in need of this kind of support, in need of these kinds of tools, of assistance. And it really niched down to saying, like, med spas, functional medicine, yoga studios, health and wellness, fitness, and all of these things. And I was like, okay, well, that's part of who I am. Put it on the
Right.
side. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second one, it would say, like, it said something like coaches or industry leaders or thought leader, things like that. And I was like, or like content creators, they're growing very fast and they don't have anybody to do their bookkeeping or their software for. Is like, okay, I've done that too, digital marketing and social media, put it on the side. Okay. And the third one was actually creative agencies, stack software, stack agents, SaaS agencies and things like that. And I was like, okay, I've worked on that too. So I was like, which one out of the three do I
Right.
pick? And I really went with what was, what I was dear to my heart. And health and wellness has always been part of who I was since I was 21, and so more than 20 years now. And I've always felt like this is something that I no longer wanted to be two of me. I just want to be me and me as a whole. And so not having to compete or not having to be like, okay, today I have to be in IT, but tomorrow I have to be in health and wellness. Like, no, be me as a whole and really understand, because I really understand that world. So yeah.
So how do you see AI in your work day, every day? How do you apply AI to what you do on a daily basis?
I use AI for literally everything in my business. It is a big infrastructure, and how I run my business. For example, I have some Excel trackers that I update on a day-to-day basis, and my tool just go ahead and uploads it into my Notion tool, for example. I don't have to use automation, so it automatically direct it. Sorry, we'll cut that out.
Right.
I have my tool that automates it directly into my Notion software.
Mm-hmm.
And so it helps me draft. I put down ideas, for example, like, oh, hey, I have this business from idea. What do you think? And sometimes it gives me like pushbacks, like, no, this is not a good time for you to launch right now. This, for example, or other things. It helps me for content creation. It helps me with like writing emails. It helps me for using it for my DMs. It helps me for a lot of different things that I use, and I think it really helps, because when you get so focused on one thing, and then you're like spending 20 minutes to write an email, when you can just tell AI, okay, this is what I want to say, write it for me in a nicer way, right? And then so I can just send it. So you're spending less time. I see AI as, when I think of AI, I think of it as like a calculator, right? Like, you tell it what you want on the tool, and then it just, spits out the results of it. But I don't think that AI is going to take people's jobs over. I don't think that that's going to happen, because we need specialties. And that comes from our brains, that comes from people that have been educated in the special fields. And so, yeah, there is going to be some little AIs that are going to replace some humans, like cash registers and things like that. Of course, those are redundant, easy things that can be automated. So why not? But there is more jobs, like, you won't be able to replace a mechanic, for example, with AI. That's just not, we're not there yet. Like, we're not there yet. Not that I know of, at least. And so, yeah, doctors, we can't replace that then yet. And so there's a lot of things that are important, and AI is an amazing tool. It's just that we just have to know how to use it, because yes, there are general prompts, and then there are prompts that are more specific, and that really leads you to where you need to be. You can say, hey, AI, help me build the websites, but if you're not being specific, you're just going to get like this landing page looking website versus one that has, like actual CEO, a copywriting, and all this, like meta descriptions and all these things. And it's like, okay, this is what I need in a real website in order to be found in Google, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's funny that you bring that up. Have you been exploring with the AEO aspect of websites? Like, I don't know if you touch it in your practice, but for us, we've been helping a lot of people get discovered through AI. Has First of all, I'll ask you, have people actually discovered you through AI? And are you seeing a trend that people are more curious to understand maybe how can they get recognized through AI?
So the first question, no, I'm not using AEO yet. And are people finding me? Not that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I know of. However, I know that it's something that I need to look into. It's kind of difficult to implement everything right now because I'm running everything in the back end. So this is a lot. I mean, everything that you see from my content creation to my website to my quizzes to all of the things I've built, every one of the branding, I've built all of that from scratch. And so it's taking some time, but I enjoy doing it because it's me and I'm really pouring my heart out to do this. So so yes, I will be looking into that. And I'm sorry, I forgot the second question was.
No, I guess the other one is, have you encountered through your consulting clients that are actually getting discovered through AI, right? Do they see more interactions of their clients finding them through AI?
Not that I know of. A lot of people still feel scared of AI. So a lot of and it's funny because I actually posted a post, was it today or yesterday, about AI, like where the FTC is actually having this whole AI in healthcare where they're just don't want to have discriminations and things like that with the FTCs. But so I think in my side of what I've been seeing in the med spas and the healthcare specifically, I think that people are using AI, but they're not using it fully because one, they don't understand, and two, because they're scared that it can unfortunately have, different compliance that are not compliant. And I think that's why there's scarcity in that. But I do believe there's curiosity in it. Absolutely. Yeah.
In your opinion, where do you think the ball is going? I mean, let's say if you had that one task or one tool, and you mentioned something about, you walk into a practice and there's all these separate software, right? And, how cool will it be if you find something that can unify everything, right? That you can actually, let's say, integrate all the data so you can actually have a dashboard where all the data is actually seen. Do you think that would be something, useful within the space? And that's probably adding one more piece of software. So it's gotta, but is that what we're missing, or do you feel like there's already software out there that really can unify all the features of the operation?
Of the operation for a med spa or health
For a
and
med
wellness
spa.
field.
Yeah.
I would think and say that maybe someone has created something, but I don't think I don't think they'd be good. I don't think they'd be that great. The only thing is why I think that is because otherwise it would be more in the market, and spas and med spas and these kinds of health and wellness businesses would not be struggling with the way that their back end office is struggling. So I don't think, I think it might exist, but I don't think it might be good enough to really fully operate, alone. And again, you would need somebody to operate to edit that operation to make sure that everything is again talking to each other. So no, I don't believe so. And it's difficult to say. I haven't heard of anything like that. But who's to say? I mean, this could be, because I was thinking, it's actually kind of funny. I was like, how cool would it be that once I can grow and expand fully in my company and, get to the level where I want to be, have enough clients and have a full employee staff, or have a full team of employees, because right now I have contractors, but have a full amount of people, and being like, okay, I think that this is time that I can find somebody to build me a software like this that can really help integrate everything at once. But I mean, who am I competing against? Body and body mind, like mind body and everything. Yeah, this is this is a lot. So I don't know. I have to see how this would be doable, and seeing if even founders would even be interested in this. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
What
No,
do you
I
think?
agree. I think No, I mean, listen, solutions are possible, and we've been developing things that are quite similar. Obviously, you need to deploy these solutions in the environment to see how they benefit, right? Because every business is going to be different, and you have to customize those data sets to whatever the business is built on, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's probably, we're all building now businesses with AI, right? It's like the modern entrepreneur is now, using AI to kind of, build businesses more efficiently than ever, right? And at some point, I think that, every sector, it's probably going to have AI architect their business and their tech stack in some sort of way, right? So I come from the restaurant business as well, and, everything is just split and apart, and, it's like, okay, so for this, you go here, for that, you go to the POS, for this, everything is in a way, so, I mean, you operate, but then there's a lot of friction. The workflows are really what make the engine work. So eventually it will happen. I think that it's a matter of, like you said, adoption, right? And many business owners are, sticking to what they know so far, right? And to be able to, bring something and another investment in, it's really difficult if you're not going to be able to justify the return on investment right away. So, but AI overall, I'll ask you a last question. Where is this going to take us? And not necessarily for MedSpas, but how do you see the world changing with AI, right? What's next to humanity, and where is the whole AI wave going in your eyes, Nadja?
I don't know. This is a scary question in a way, because I'm using AI on a day-to-day basis, and that's something that I'm not actually researching, to be honest. I'm not trying to go ahead of times and be like, okay, where are we going? Because things in IT, as we know, change so rapidly. As you and I are talking right now, things are already changing in the IT world.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to say like, oh, we're going to go here in 5 years, when tomorrow, who knows what can happen tomorrow. So it's something very, and I guess maybe that's the reason why I'm not looking so much into what happens to AI, but I am curious to see where we're going. The only thing that I'm a little bit worried about AI is privacy, and coming from somebody who wanted to be a pen tester, so into the hacking and everything. So it's something that does kind of scares me a little bit, is where is this going to go into the privacy of people? Because if AI is basically regurgitating everything that Google or any of these web browsers are saying, right? Because it has all the knowledge, and it's just, I don't use, and here's the thing that is pretty scary. 2 years ago, I used to use Google search and still ask a question on Google search. And then I started to realize that the questions are getting terrible, and they're less and less and less. And I'm like, I'm not getting my answers through Google anymore. So now I have to go through AI. So it's literally pushing you to not use, like, unless you're looking for specific websites, to look for a specific website, right? Or blog, or then you'll get your answer. But like, if you're looking for like something very specific, very niche down, you will get an AI answer. And it's like, or you get no answer at all. So it's like, it forces you to go to AI. Now, of course, you'll have, all your browsers that will, the first thing you type in, the bottom will have like, first thing is the AI, and then you have all the links, and you're like, okay, great. So this is where we're going. So okay, cool. But it's kind of pushing you. So I mean, in a way, it's good that we have technology is always going to keep growing, and people are still, we're building things ahead, and that's good. I'm just mainly concerned about how the privacy is going to go and how far this is going to push, because now you can just take a photo, putting it into putting the photo into Google search, and it tells you exactly the meta description of the photo, the location of where it was, what location you're at, what timestamp it is, because of all the meta descriptions that we have on our phones now. So it's on our phones and on the browsers. So it's just kind of a little bit scary in that aspect. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. But
I think that's the topic right now. That topic the big topic is security. You know, these open models are basically everything you're telling. I mean, they're learning from everything you're discussing with them, right? So privacy is a big issue, and I think that that's going to be the turning point on AI and how efficient is it in a business, right? And I think that a lot of people are going to be start looking at more models, closed models, right, that are just specific for the businesses, and I think that's the growth. But yeah, I agree 100%. If there's a worry, it's probably privacy. That's the number one bottleneck.
Yeah.
Nadja, it was great conversation. Listen, I have a quick round of rapid fire questions I'd like to end the podcast with. So I'll ask, and then simple answer, make it fun, make it easy, simple. So we'll end the podcast like that. So first question is coffee or tea in the morning?
Tea.
Tea. City you feel most at home in?
That's difficult. Because I'm from around the world, so I've traveled a bit. So this is kind of difficult.
It's a great question for you.
This is very, very difficult. I think, honestly, I never really felt home anywhere. I feel like home is where I am and how I make the space be. And, the people that I have surrounding me at the time, I think that those are home for me. I mean, I've gone from many different places so far, from Mexico to United States to France and other places, and I feel like I've moved a lot too. Like just with the United States alone, I think I moved in like 5 different states, and I never really regretted the moving. I've always felt like this was something that I needed to learn. It was like a new chapter every time. So I think home is really where you make it feel, where you feel comfortable, and where you feel like your heart and yourself are is where you feel. And I have my dog with me, so that's as long as he's with me, I feel like I'm home anywhere. So I think that's important too.
You know what they say, home is where the heart is. But I'll ask you maybe a simpler question.
Go ahead.
What's your favorite city that you always look forward to coming back or going to?
That's still not easy. Well, in France, I would say Paris. I really enjoy Paris. Yeah, I have my family there. Well, I have some family in Paris, but I have a lot of family in south of France as well. And then in United States, I do enjoy New York, but I also enjoy Miami, which is where I'm from. So yeah, I'm a little bit in both.
Fair enough. You're in a few continents. Your heart is in a few continents. Yeah. A language you still want to learn?
I would love to actually speak Vietnamese. I plan on traveling to Colombia, and I plan to travel to Vietnam to hopefully meet my long lost family, and I would like to probably understand or speak Vietnamese. That'd be something that's definitely on my bucket list.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird. Yeah, early bird.
One tool you could not run the business without?
Cloud. I use Claude for everything. Claude is my best friend.
It's the best out there for sure. Yeah. Early bird, or I ask you, the best advice you ever ignored?
The best advice I've ever ignored. So I think in the business and the entrepreneur side, I think that one of my inspiration on LinkedIn, I would say, he always used to tell me, because he helps me with my content on LinkedIn to like grow and be seen by others, is he always says you haven't had your best idea yet. And I'm totally stealing that quote from him, so I am so sorry. But he says you haven't had your best idea yet, because I agree with that. It's like we started a business or with this idea in mind. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then you start creating content and you start seeing what people resonate to the content, right? And especially when you first start, and I'm talking for early start entrepreneurs, and you create the content and then you realize that that one isn't doing so well, but then this one is popping off and you're like, wow, this one went viral. Like what happened? And you start really understanding and seeing the stats of what your audience wants from you. And then this is where you're like, okay, I need to pivot my business to reflect what my audience wants from me. So like, even though your business is X, but then your audience is like, oh, well, maybe it's why. And then you lean into why and you're like, okay, it's still my business, but you're pivoting. And I think that that's like a really cool way of saying, like, you haven't had your best idea yet, because your audience will give you ideas for your next content. Your audience will give you your next, right? Like your next ideas of what they want from you. And like, oh, maybe I can create a course on X, or maybe I can do this. And I think that's like really important to think of, because to listen what they want, they're following you for a reason. They're with you for a reason. So just listen to what they're asking from you, or seeing what questions they're asking from you, and kind of built around that.
One thing every founder wastes money on.
SaaS softwares. I honestly think that every founder, unless they have a team behind them, like if you're established, obviously this is not for you, but somebody that's early stage entrepreneur, I think that a lot of them have the same problem as med spas do, right? That they're leaking money, they're buying multiple subscriptions. I think that applies for everyone.
Yeah. Favorite way to switch off?
At the end of the day, would throughout work, or like
let's say you finish your day and you want to find that task, that that action that lets you switch off. How do you find your zen?
I usually put an alarm, and I'm like, okay, I'm finishing at this time. And then if I finish, so I usually start my day at like 7:30, 8 a.m. I start already online. And usually if I don't feel like by 4 o'clock I've done everything that I needed to do in that day, I'm like, I'll push a little bit more. But I do have an alarm every single day to tell me like, hey, it's 4 o'clock. Like, okay, lights off. Like, let's get out of the office and relax and take your dog out and go on a walk and things like that. So, but if I feel like there are certain things that I didn't get a chance to do because I was busy with other things, then I will definitely push a little further.
What's that city that you haven't visited yet, or place that you haven't visited yet that you wanna visit?
I want to visit Cali, Colombia, which is where I'm from.
Okay.
Definitely.
You haven't been? Oh, well, you've been, but you haven't been to Cali, Colombia.
No, I have not. Cali, Colombia,
oh, interesting.
No. California,
Great.
yes.
Yes. Cali, California, yes. Got it.
Yeah.
The trait you look for in people you network with?
Transparency, honesty, integrity, all the things that I have, and which is probably why it's not difficult to work with me, but because I have a strong belief that like, if I'm here to help you, then you should also meet me halfway, that you should, also, yes, I understand you don't have the experience or you don't have the knowledge that I need you to have, and that's okay. This is what you're hiring me for, to help you. But at the same time, I still need definitely transparency, and communication is very important. But integrity is my number one, and being okay saying you don't know. That's something that I've heavily used when I worked in IT. I used to say people like, I don't know. And they would be on the call, be like, wow, like you're the first person that said that. And I'm like, yeah, like I don't want to BS you and saying I know something I don't know, but I will research it because I love a good challenge. So I will, like, don't tempt me with a good time, but like I will go and look for a challenge. And so many people who are in IT that are serving people are feeling like, oh, because I'm in IT, I have to know everything. No, it's okay. It's okay to say like you don't know something. It's okay to be like, I don't know, but I'll look into it for you. And that's definitely been my pivot point. And I think I catch people off guard all the time when they're like, wait, you don't know? I'm like, yeah, but I'll let you know. And as soon as I know, I will get back to you. And they're like, okay, I appreciate that thing.
Well, honesty and transparency for sure. And I think that I don't know, it's one of the most honest responses you can ever hear. And I know only that, it opens up the opportunity to then learn, right? Because sometimes you walk or pretend you know everything, and you break the opportunity, right? You kind of block yourself from the opportunity to kind of grow and expand. So I don't know, can be powerful because it implies that you are not going to invent it, but you're going to research it and learn it. So anyways, Nadja, thank you so much for joining the conversation, talking to us in the podcast. We really had a great time exchanging ideas. We wish you all the best, and hopefully we get to maybe share some time again in the future. All right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
having me, Alexander.
Yeah, a pleasure. Pleasure. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.